On this episode of Delivering Marketing Joy, I talk with Tim Hill about what it's like to pivot during a pandemic and how to become a podcastologist. Hey there, and welcome to a brand new edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. I'm your host, Kirby Hasseman, and joining me today is a longtime friend, first time on the show. He's my buddy, Tim Hill. He's with Turnkey Podcast Productions. He's a podcastologist, which I can't wait to dig into and learn more about. And essentially, just like everybody, he's in sales. So Tim, thanks so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, man. I've listened to the show for many years, hundreds of episodes, and I'm excited to be on your show with you, man.
That's so
kind of nervous. You're a star.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So I want to start from the beginning. I mean, like so many people during, these challenging times, you found yourself displaced after being in the promo industry for a long time. So I know you had to adjust, and I would imagine you had to make some tough choices. So tell us what happened and what did you do to get sort of back on your feet?
All right. Well, yeah, displaced is a nice way to put it, I guess. When the COVID hit, and all I've known for, most of my life, since I got in this industry in 1989, when I was 10, I was very young, but except for a brief sabbatical for about 5 years where the kids were younger, this is all I've known. So when COVID hit, it was such a shock that, boom, you don't have a job, or they brought us off the road for a week or so, and then bam, let us go, and pretty quickly, pretty fast.
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends got furloughed or got salary cuts, and it went slower, but mine just went really fast. So it was almost like losing a best friend, because all my friends are in the industry. And so I kind of liken it to the stages of grief, where the shock and anger and denial and bargaining and finally acceptance. But I think I processed through those quicker than a lot of folks. Mm-hmm. So it was a unique opportunity. I thought that got to have what do I do? So, got some faith. I talked to God and tried to listen to God, it's easy to talk to God, but it's harder to listen.
Yeah.
And talk to some friends too. But the thing that I got was at first was then I was arguing with God, it was like, no, this isn't do that. So that's stress and a lot of sleepless nights and angst and everything. So finally I said, okay, God, I'll trust you. And then that's when the opportunity with Turnkey Podcast opened up with a friend of mine, Doug Sandler. So I was like, okay, I'll change direction. I don't want to do that, say that pivot word that I have a pet peeve with, but all right, I'll move on. And started learning that and figured it was, it's a emerging market, emerging way to get your message out there. Started learning that. And then as it happens, I've figured out or talked to some folks, still keeping in touch with my promo people, that podcasting can be used, in this area during COVID to get people to hear the supplier's message or your message, the distributor's message, whether it's, the audio stripped out of a video podcast or the best of a virtual trade show, or just a weekly, here's what's new, here's how to sell to real estate, here's how to sell to healthcare or automotive. Mm-hmm. So I've started contacting folks and worked my way back into promo with the podcasting, because it's a great way to, get the voice out of there in a virus-free manner. So you don't have to worry about that. And it can be done immediate too, because my fiance does a daily Facebook Live and then strips the audio out of that and has it up as a podcast or something breaking. You can get it out just as fast as, that way. Yeah. But it really was just listening to friends, listening to God, and just doing some deep thinking instead of being, paralyzed. And, it was hard, believe me. I mean, I make it sound a little trivial, but it was a hard week or so of just angst of not knowing what to do. And then seeing all my friends going through the same thing,
Yeah. Yeah. And I liked how you likened it to the stages of grief, because I think there's some truth to that. So, many people are still going through this, right? Whether they're in our industry, outside of our industry. So having gone through it and kind of, at least to a degree, coming out on the other side, right? What
Right.
advice would you
Trying.
give them? Yeah.
I would kind of, like I said, just talk to your friends, have faith, and then follow your advice that you get from your friends or your faith. Just, faith, follow, and your friends, and just, and don't be afraid to do something different. Believe me, I was afraid, but just try to see what it is and follow your heart. I mean, you have an opportunity that you may not always get. I mean, I've wanted to launch a podcast about coffee for a couple of years now. So not having, the job for a while and focusing on podcast allowed me to, launch our Connect Over Coffee podcast with my fiance. We co-host it and talk to roasters and fun stuff about coffee and weirdness about coffee. And she doesn't drink coffee. So it's really weird to have somebody hosting a podcast about coffee who doesn't drink coffee at all. But, so just follow whatever you wanted to do, because I wanted to launch it for a long time, but with the travel and going everywhere like we always do, just didn't have the time. So now you've got the time, if you want the time to do that. But it's still scary. Don't get me wrong. It's scary.
Yeah, I heard Paul Kiwi say one time that your growth starts just outside of your comfort zone. And so for many of us, this is an opportunity for us to look and see what we want our life really to be. So final question for you. I mean, now your gig, as you've mentioned, is to help sort of create podcasts. Why do you think creating your own voice and personal brand? I mean, because I think that's one of the podcasting is a tool to do that, to create your own voice and build your personal brand. Why do you think that's important right now?
Well, I think it's important now more than ever because, as you know, my first brand was Tennessee Tim. And I had nothing to do with that. It just happened where I, big Tennessee fan from Tennessee, always talking about Tennessee, wearing orange or whatever, got orange on. So I had that brand. And then, I posted so many coffee memes. I became the coffee guy, which actually turned out, to work out well with the coffee podcast. And then now I'm Turnkey Tim, because Turnkey Podcast, with that. I think it's important to have a voice, but not get so wrapped up into that to your job, because I was listening to Brandon and Brittany from Gold Bond yesterday, and she said the same thing. She's Brittany Gold Bond on Instagram, and she has a great, presence there. She does a great job. But if she were to leave Gold Bond, she wants to be able to take that with you. So do whatever branding you're doing, but make it not so wrapped up in your current job that you can't take it with you. And podcasting can do that, because you can have a podcast about quilting, or you can have a podcast about my Doug. He has a separate podcast, Mustang, the early years, 1965 through 67 Mustangs. That's it. Those years. That's it. It's a very small group, but it's a passion for him. But now he's got that brand as well. So it's just whatever your branding is, whatever your passion is, do that and enjoy it and carry it with you. And have fun. I mean, you got to have fun.
Yeah, I like what you say though too, because I'm always struck by people who sort of brand with their company. Because to me, if it's a personal brand, right? Like it should be personal. And as people move around in our industry, just like every other industry. And so the idea that you're very tied to it is, I think having that separate makes sense. So I think that's good advice.
But it does help because, I was with Lanco for like 13 years. And then when I, moved jobs to Jetline, because of the personal reputation and branding, a lot of folks followed me there. It's like, oh, well, Tim's over here now, I'm going to send my business over here, which is, reputation is hardest thing to build and the easiest thing to lose. So I'm blessed to have the reputation where people will follow me. And it's, just something that if you do build it right, they will follow you.
I love it. Well, I'm excited, man. I've been enjoying kind of watching you sort of grow this conversation around podcasting. It's something I'm passionate about.
Right. Yeah.
So I was excited to see it. So you've answered my 3 questions. I give everybody 3, and then I give them a chance to ask me 1. Do you have one for me?
I do. It's a 2-part question.
Okay.
Since we're talking about podcasting, and I know you've used podcasting for many years. How has it impacted your business pre-COVID-19 and post-COVID-19? Because I'm sure,
Mhm.
there's a difference there. So how has it affected your business before COVID-19?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So, it's one of when I first started doing this, I didn't have like hey, here's what I want my ROI to be. I just felt like it was the right thing to do. And I felt like if I kept doing it, good things would happen. And ultimately what really the answer to the question is, it made me, in the minds of customers and prospects, it made me more of an expert. And so for us, and this, Tim, so many times in our industry, we get called to the project when the project is nearly over. Hey, we've got a trade show coming up and we just realized it's in 2
Yeah.
weeks and I've got $1,000 to spend. What can we do? And that still happens some, but more now people call me and say, hey, we've got a trade show coming up in 6 months. What do we need to do? It's much more of a marketing consultant, and it's put me in that role. That was not necessarily, hey, that's what I want to do. I mean, it is, but it has developed because of that, because people see it. What over time I've learned is the best content is about creating value to a specific audience. And so in answer to the second part of the question, sort of post-COVID, when this all went down, I looked at our team and said, we want to create content and create value, whether it's podcast, videos, blogs, whatever. So we're going to double down. And so we spent the first month not trying to sell anybody anything. We were just trying to create content that would provide them value. And we've since done Hasseman U, which is like an education thing. We're getting ready to launch.
That's cool.
A masterclass, which is an online marketing conference. Like, we looked around and said, look, we want to create value and education. And so I think post-COVID, it's kind of guided us because we got so much value out of creating value on the front end. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I could see, yeah, and you're doing it the right way, because when COVID hit, people had so much fear, they didn't know what they were going to do. So you trying to sell them something probably would have made them mad.
Yeah.
So, because, podcasting, the main things you can do with it is make money, grow your influence or grow your community, and provide, positive content, which you chose, the ones that are going to gain like we're talking about branding and your reputation. During this time, you were giving them good information, not trying to sell them. So when it does turn around and their budgets do come back, they're going to come to you because you were the one who gave them such good value when they needed it, and didn't try to sell them.
Yeah, well, I hope so. And the reality of it is, I think as we move forward, there are going to be opportunities where what we do has value for them. And I think, the challenging, and this is challenging for all people in marketing and sales, is when it is that time to say, okay, no, I'm flipping the switch. I am actually trying to sell you something right now.
Right.
but being transparent about it, I think that's part of it. Is like, I think where we get in trouble is where we say, oh, I'm just trying to help you out, but hey, here's a special on this. It's like, no, if you're giving, give, if you're selling, sell. And so just be transparent, I think. And when you do that, that's one of the ways to build some credibility.
Yeah, that's true. I agree.
Cool, man. Well, hey, thank you so much.
Hey,
I appreciate it.
Before we go, we had some technical problems at the beginning. I was going to tell you what I wanted to do at the end.
Oh, sure.
You talk about giving value. So I want to give all your listeners a gift as we're talking about podcasting. It's important to get your message out there. And a better way to do that is to get on other people's podcasts, to be a good podcast guest. And there's a lot of little things and different things that you need to worry about that people don't think about when they're doing that. So we have a 6-module course, online course. It's normally $97, but I want to give anybody the course. I'll send you the link, but the code that zeroes out the cost is sales guest, but I'll send you the link for that too. But it tells you how to contact podcasters, how to get on their shows. Once you get on their shows, how to prepare for it, and then what to do while you're on the show. And then after that, how to follow up and promote it as well. So nice. I would love to give everybody, listening to that, that's listening, give that to them so that they can help them out.
I love it. That is great. And there is, it is one of those things that you do kind of learn as you do. So getting the kind of the keys to that, it's like taking the pill in the Matrix, right? You skip ahead. And so that's really
Yeah,
cool.
or just simple things like, either put your phone in the other room or turn it off or whatever, because it's going to go off. It's
Yes.
going to ding, it's going to vibrate, it's going to do something, Murphy's Law. So either put it in the other room or, restart your computer, just little things like that make a huge difference that they may not think about. So happy to do that.
That is awesome. That's awesome. We will link that up for sure so people can check it out. And Tim,
Cool.
Thanks so much, man. I appreciate you taking the time and kind of doing this with me.
Oh, thank you, man. It's my pleasure, my opportunity. Good to see you. I haven't seen you in, 8 months or whenever. So it's good to see you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool, man. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.